Shalom Aleichem, a guten Rosh Chodesh, Tammuz, Chodesh HaGeula, and a guten Erev Shabbos. In a few days, it's Gimel Tammuz, the Yortzeit, the Yom HaYilula of our Heilige Holy Rebbe. It's a day of growth. So I want to begin today with a story, a Maisa, that happened years ago that came across my desk that shows the Rebbe's, shows the respect that others had for the Rebbe, although initially maybe they barked, complained, disagreed. But when you dig deeper, you see that there's a whole other side to the story. This happened in 1968 during the summer. Two Bocharim went America Shlichus to Chicago. One was Shalom Ber Volpe, Rabbi Volpe of Eretz Yisrael today. And the other one was Shalom Ber Levitin, who was the head shliach in Seattle, Washington, the state of Washington. And they met with many Rabbonim and people, and it was a very fascinating Merke Shlichus when they were there. And Shalom Ber Volpe documented it, and he wrote a duch, and he wrote a report, and we have it. And I was able to read it. It's printed in the Sefer of Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Keller, told us Hatmimim. As an aside, if you haven't read that Sefer, it's very important and very worthwhile. The history of the Tmimim in America from 1940 and came to 770, started the yeshiva and their families and the growth of the yeshiva and everything else. Very interesting work. Anyway, they met a Yid, Reb Tzvi Hirsch Meisels, Harav Tzvi Hirsch Meisels, who was known as the Weizen Rav. He was a Rav before the war in a city in Hungary called Weizen, or Weizen, W-E-I-T-Z-E-N. Is the way they spell it, I believe, online. Anyway, and he was a Hungarian Jew, and he was part of the Satmar movement. He was a chassid of the Satmar Rebbe, Rebbe Yoel Teitelbaum. And his shita, his philosophy, and his ideology, and everything was, in that approach, in that way, which includes, different things that many others don't approve of and alike, but that was the culture. When they met with him, he spoke very glaringly about the Rebbe, and this alarmed and surprised the Bocharim, the two Merke Shluchim, because Satmar in 1968 wasn't exactly the big fans of the Rebbe. In 1963, when Shazar became president, Shneur Zalman Rubashov, Shneur Zalman Shazar, and the Rebbe Fabrengen lauded his ascendancy to the presidency, the Satmar Rav was very upset. And as the years went on, although he came to be Menachem Movel, the Rebbe, I believe after the Rebbe Tzimchana, the Rebbe's mother, passed on, but nevertheless it was a tense time, especially the 6-day war and the Miftzah Tefiilin. The Rebbe started to put on Tefiilin on the soldiers, and he was upset because he said, halachically, how could you do that? They didn't wash Negelwasser. And the Rebbe responded. It's very printed in the Likud Sichos and the Sofis and in the Igros Kodesh, in his letters, to the halachic accusations and complications involved with putting on Tefiilin with people who are not pure, meaning in the sense of halachically being pure. Regardless, the Weizen Rav spoke very positively and glaringly and beautifully about the Rebbe. And he said to them, now I realize, this was 68, so it was like a year after 67, the war, the 6-day war. Now I realize the value of the Rebbe coming out with people putting on Tefiilin, Tefiilin. And he said, I'll tell you a story. I had a student who learned in the Telzi yeshiva. He went from Chicago. He learned either in Telz in Chicago or Cleveland, and then he went to Tefiilin. This was during the 60s, several years before this story. And his parents are close to me. For whatever reason, he got involved. He became a hippie, and he left Yiddishkeit. The parents asked if I can talk to him. So he was once in town, and he said, so the Weitzner says, I said to him, I heard that you rented a place on Eastern Parkway. And so he said, that's not far from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, 770 Crown High. Go over there. He says, no, I don't want to go. I'm not interested. By the way, that itself, that the Weitzner should send him to 770 to the Rebbe, I think is interesting. Anyway, so then he says to him, look, I want you to give me an agreement that you'll put on tefillin every day. And I stuck out my hand to him, and he gave me his hand. We made what's called a tkiyas kaf, a handshake that has validity, halachic validity, that he'll put on tefillin every day. So the Weitzner said that I did that as a result of me seeing how the Lubavitcher Rebbe's campaign for putting on tefillin is very successful and very important. So he told this to Shalom Ber, the two Shalom Bears, that now, a year later, he says, I recognize, this story happened during that year in 1968. I recognize the importance of what I was kind of opposed of as part of the Satmar Shita a year before. Then the Bacharim went they went into the Beis Medrash, and they found Satmar Bacharim who probably came from New York, and they were learning there, and he spoke to them, and the Bacharim told the two Shalom Bears that our Rosh Hashiva, our Rav, Rabbi Meisels, he speaks so positively about Chabad, about Lubavitch, about the Rebbe. So this is something that I believe the Olam, the crowd, doesn't know, and it's out of Gimel Tammuz. And we need to know that there's two things. There's outreach and there's inreach. Outreach is for andere, outside of ourselves, others who are not Lubavitch yet. And then there is also inreach, ourselves. This is a Shabbos when we celebrate the Hilula, the Istalkus of the Rebbe. It's important to deal with both issues. Of course, to put on tefillin with people who haven't put on tefillin yet, and to be makar of them, and to teach them Torah and all that. Absolutely. But at the same time, darf man trachten wegen the Kinder and the Enkelach. You got to think about your kids and your grandkids and great-grandkids, how they're going to be connected to Ilon the Chayet, Chassidus, how they be connected to the Eibishter, Emunah, Ava, Yira, Torah, Mitzvahs, a Geschmack in Yiddishkeit, pleasure, delight, not just doing it because it's my parents did it, my grandparents did it. And for this, we have a tzaddik. I was celebrating a celebration. Where's the tzaddik? Believe me, he's more here than we're here. Because we're only here with our guf, with our body. He's here with his neshama and his essence, and there's no limitations, as it says in Zohar HaKodesh. Brother Alter Rebbe quotes it in Geras HaKodesh, Yoter Rebbe B'chayoi. So everyone, you have 24 hours from Motzei Shabbos till Sunday night, the 24 hours of Gimel Tammuz, Sarai Chappen. Some of the things include to light a Ner Neshama, to get an Aliyah this Shabbos like you would get for your father, to learn the Oisis Hashem Mishnayos of the Rebbe, to give tzedakah to one of his meisters, to share with your family and friends and others about the Rebbe's great Abbas Yisrael, unconditional love, and to participate some in a Kiddush of Fabrengen. Shabbos there'll be a Kiddush of Fabrengen, I'm sure, almost in every Lubavitcher shul, and probably also Sunday and Sunday night, whatever. The point is, and of course those that are here in the New York area, to go to the oil. If you can't go to the oil, the Rebbe writes that you write the Pidyon Nefesh after Shachris on the day of the Elula, on Sunday this year, and you put it in a sefer of the Baal HaYelula. He doesn't say there, to like putting into the Igros Kodesh and to check what it says there. He doesn't say that. He just to put it into a sefer of the Baal HaYelula, so that it's like the Baal HaYelula is makabel the pan, and it's accepted. And there's no question that this avodah of dedicating ourselves to the Eibishter through the tzaddik, the Rebbe, will bring for us Yiddish Chassidish Nachas and to bring Klal Yisrael together, because we have to know that without Achdus and unity, we're missing something. And the Rebbe didn't have one bone in his being that was not loving of every Yid. Even people who antagonized him and people who were against him outwardly, Sof HaYoyim, at the end, it was all, from the Rebbe's perspective, Ava, love. And this I documented in many of my works, so I'm not going to spend time now. I'm just going to say that we should all have a gewaltige Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, a gewaltige Shabbos, a gewaltige Yom HaYelula, and so we have tremendous opportunities. And we say, Ma Tov Lecho Yakum Shechem Yisrael, Anish Filosi Lecho Hashem Eis Rotzen, Mir Eis Rotzen, an auspicious time. What does it mean, an auspicious time? These days are an auspicious time. Gimel Tammuz, an auspicious time, not just for Lubavitcher, but for every single Yid. So Mamela, share the message, encourage people to learn some of the Rebbe's Torah, to give some tzedakah to his meisters, and to take upon ourselves a resolution of having unconditional Ahavas Yisrael. And B'schuzeh will be zeicher, will merit to the Geula Shleima B'yis Mashiach Tzidkenu B'korev Mamish. Seid gesund und l'chaim l'levracha.